Scrubbing floors or hauling packs until collapse, as often seen on screen, has been replaced with real-time assessments tied to operational readiness. At its core, the shift is clear. Boot Camp in 2025 aims to produce adaptable soldiers who can think, coordinate, and endure, not just survive yelling contests or arbitrary punishments. Training is targeted and systemic rather than theatrical. And just as films misrepresent how armies forge their recruits, they also miss key details about the gear and systems relied on once those soldiers are deployed into the field. Helicopter rescue with new gear. Helicopter extraction scenes are another staple in action films, but the reality in 2025 looks very different from what audiences are shown. On screen, pilots swoop low, dangle crew members on ropes, and pluck survivors from chaos almost like comic book heroes. Sometimes the pilot himself is shown leaving the controls mid-flight, reaching for victims with one hand, and then somehow climbing back inside, as if the helicopter can hover effortlessly on its own. Those visuals are dramatic, but they don't reflect modern practice. Real rescues depend on strict crew roles, specialized systems, and calculated planning, never on a pilot abandoning the cockpit. The difference begins with modern awareness tools. Helicopter crews do not rely purely on vision through smoke, rain, or darkness. Aircraft are fitted with infrared sensors, helmet-mounted displays, and stabilized camera systems that can pick out a person's heat signature through cloud or dust. Crews can hover precisely over a survivor without leaning dangerously outside. Rescue drones often work ahead of the aircraft, scouting confined terrain or providing precise coordinates before the winch is even deployed. The hoist itself is another overlooked detail. Movies often show it as little more than a rope, swinging violently beneath the aircraft. In reality, rescue hoists are engineered for controlled stability and have defined load limits, typically several hundred kilograms, depending on platform, not the exaggerated lift of vehicle loads films might imply. Stabilization functions counteract rotor wash and crosswinds to keep the line manageable, reducing the need for dangerous acrobatics below the aircraft. Crews rely on winches, baskets, and harness setups to bring survivors up in controlled motions rather than the frantic dangling sequences audiences are used to. Specialized training supports these procedures. Rescue swimmers, for example, conduct annual dunker training to stay proficient for underwater escapes, practice hoist jettison protocols for emergencies, and often deploy using night vision goggles when rescues occur under poor light. These steps ensure safety not just for the survivor, but for the crew as well. The risks are real. Rotor wash, power limitations, and aircraft weight restrictions all influence whether a rescue attempt can even be made. Every move is assessed against these constraints, making risk calculations central to the mission. Modern aircraft reflect that professionalism. Platforms like the HH-60W Jolly Green II are equipped with extended-range tanks, integrated defensive systems, and advanced avionics to keep crews safe when operating in hostile areas. Every mission is calculated. Payload capacity, endurance, and margin for survivability all factor into planning, none of which are visible in Hollywood's endless fuel scenarios. Even rescues at sea come with more procedure than spectacle. Survivors rely on flotation devices, thermal bottles, and cold water protection to stay alive until a crew arrives. That equipment is often the deciding factor in survival, not the last-second rope drop that dominates movie clips. Perhaps the greatest difference is redundancy. Crews operate with backup hoists, alternate extraction methods, and layered systems designed to prevent a single point of failure. Films omit this discipline, choosing stunt-like risks instead. That gap between real-world precision and screen drama becomes just as clear when we move from flying crews to the way small unit tactics are shown inside buildings. Special Forces tactics in Netflix series. Netflix frequently puts special operations units at the center of its big action sequences, but the tactics it shows rarely match the reality of how raids are actually conducted. Episodes often zero in on a single operator clearing rooms at speed, explosions lighting the background, and bodies dropped in seconds. It's all cut for momentum, but the truth is that a real raid is built on precise stack formations, sector responsibility, and drill rehearsals practiced until automatic. Instead of lone heroes flying through doorways, every operator knows their lane and maintains overlapping coverage, moving methodically rather than recklessly sprinting into the unknown. On screen, the breach is often shown as a loud, speeding rush of adrenaline. In practice, the pace is controlled because patience prevents missed threats or friendly fire. A team stack advances like a machine, with each member covering not just the immediate front, but angles that protect the group. The first operator secures the doorway, the next covers a flank, and every roll behind reinforces the previous one. That choreography keeps the group alive, and is the opposite of the stylized solo clearances seen in many Netflix depictions. The rehearsals behind an entry are what make it work. Special operations training involves countless dry runs in full-scale mock-ups of apartment blocks, with variations drilled until every member reacts without hesitation. Flashy window dives or dramatic flips don't play a role here. Controlled door breaches and deliberate steps through rooms matter more, because each pause allows for rapid threat evaluation, checking for civilians and clearing dead space where combatants might conceal themselves. The real effect looks calm and measured, but to unit members, that's what survival depends on. Another defining contrast is the level of support layered overhead. Real raids are rarely blind entries. Small ISR drones circle discreetly above, providing thermal imagery and video feeds streamed directly to team leaders on the ground. This helps coordinate timing and ensures units know what to expect before they breach. The cinematic omission of this layer makes strikes look reckless when in reality, surveillance and overwatch are force multipliers just as decisive as the stack itself. Casualty care is also misrepresented. In fast-moving Netflix portrayals, downed operators are often skipped past to preserve pacing. In reality, raids are built with casualty evacuation steps preloaded. Kits are staged, evacuation points plotted, and team members designated as combat medics. Planning for injuries starts before the mission, preventing a small wound from evolving into a fatal one. Realism here means redundancy, not improvisation. Netflix drama relies on non-stop gunfire during hostage scenarios, with operators breaking doors under fire. Yet effective counter-terror raids integrate negotiators, intelligence feeds, external containment, and patience. The silence and pauses rarely make for gripping television, but they are closer to how these critical missions succeed. These gaps between myth and practice illustrate how series frame combat for entertainment rather than accuracy. And while small unit realism often gets lost on screen, the same distortion applies when cameras turn to the sea, where cinematic naval battles lean on spectacle even more aggressively. Naval warfare with 2025 tech films often frame naval battles like duels from the age of battleships, with vessels firing at each other in plain sight. In 2025, though, fleets do not close distance for visible exchanges. Modern naval combat revolves around standoff weapons, long-range missiles, hypersonics, electronic warfare, and the fusion of multiple sensor feeds. Ships typically engage targets they cannot see with the naked eye, relying on surveillance assets and data networks to detect, classify, and strike long before the enemy appears on the horizon. Once hypersonic weapons entered service, the dynamics of sea combat shifted entirely. These missiles travel at extreme speeds and cover vast distances, giving fleets the ability to destroy opponents from hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away. Instead of dramatic cannon fire at close range, the emphasis is on early detection. Drones and unmanned platforms provide reconnaissance, relaying targeting information back to commanders so that strikes can be launched while ships stay concealed. Recent conflicts have even shown navies deploying unmanned surface vessels as remote strike tools, proving how operators now use expendable craft for tasks once conducted only by manned ships. This reality makes prolonged surface shootouts between large warships increasingly rare. What often defines encounters today are competing layers of electronic warfare, jamming radars, spoofing satellites, degrading GPS accuracy, and hiding signatures to make targeting more difficult. Torpedoes launched by. Submarines remain another hidden threat. A single submerged attack can terminate an enemy ship without a surface duel taking place at all. These factors mean that survivability comes from reducing detectability and denying an opponent clean targeting data, not from bracing for salvo fire. Technology also plays a part in reshaping defense. While not yet widely fielded, railguns and directed energy weapons are under active testing, designed to shoot down high-speed threats or intercept swarms of drones. Unlike the cinematic dramatization of glowing beams tearing ships apart, the real deployments focus on highly controlled point defense. Hollywood tends to ignore these developments, but they show how speed and precision are shaping what navies can and cannot do in a contested environment. Submarines offer another reminder that screen portrayals exaggerate. Films often depict them as silent hunters, moving invisibly below the surface. Real submarines make significant noise, from propeller cavitation to machinery vibrations, and opposing forces use sonar arrays to exploit those vulnerabilities. Subcrews spend entire missions adjusting course, speed, and mechanical settings just to manage their acoustic profile. Silence is relative, never absolute. Logistics is another layer absent from fiction. Ammunition, fuel, and provisions do not appear endlessly. Nations rely on replenishment ships and carefully timed supply chains to sustain fleets during long deployments. Without that system, even the most advanced warship becomes little more than a floating target once resources run dry. The most decisive factor, however, remains timing. Hypersonic weapons cut engagement windows to seconds. Dodging them through elaborate maneuvers, as often suggested in films, is close to impossible. Victory depends not on flashy evasion, but on having the awareness and electronic defenses to neutralize threats before they launch. And just as distance and detection dominate naval warfare now, the same logic applies to how militaries manage communications on land, where what movies call effortless battlefield chatter looks very different in practice. Military communications realism. In war films, radio calls often sound like clean dialogue lifted straight from a phone conversation. Every word cuts through perfectly, even with gunfire in the background, and entire strategies are spoken aloud as if noise, static, or competing signals never enter the picture. That clarity makes the story easy to follow, but field communications are far more constrained and far less forgiving. Modern tactical radios are encrypted digital systems that cycle through frequency-hopping waveforms designed to prevent interception. The reality is that transmissions often come broken, clipped, or buried in static. Because of this, soldiers rely heavily on brevity codes, short, prearranged phrases that carry precise meaning with minimal airtime. A single word like contact can compress what would otherwise be a long explanation, and everyone on the net knows exactly how to respond. The principle is simple. The longer the transmission, the greater the risk of confusion or interception. By 2025, these tactical nets link far beyond handheld radios. Units connect back through satellites, relays, and nodes that move both voice and data across continents when links are intact. This makes communication more capable, but also more dependent. If satellites are jammed or relays disrupted, teams fall back to local nets, brevity codes, and even visual signals. Training covers these contingencies, so a unit can keep moving even when digital systems are cut off. The risks of overcommunication are real. Every broadcast can reveal a unit's location to an opponent equipped with signal tracking tools. That's why operators are drilled to keep transmissions as short as possible. Hollywood's running dialogues over open channels would create immediate vulnerabilities in real combat. Extended chatter on air doesn't just slow down responses, it exposes a team to detection and targeting. Electronic warfare is another factor films rarely acknowledge. For all the cinematic confidence in radios, in real battlefields, entire channels can disappear under heavy jamming. Operators then shift frequencies or implement backup signals already rehearsed before missions. In some environments, hand signals and visual confirmation become the only way forward. Entire engagements can hinge not on who fires first, but on who sustains communication long enough to coordinate effectively. Language itself is standardized for speed and precision. Instead of improvised phrases like "cover me" or "I'm going over here," orders are boiled down to terms drilled until automatic. This prevents hesitation and avoids misinterpretation when seconds matter. Soldiers are trained to compress thoughts into code rather than turn airwaves into conversations. As one memorable rule explains in training, say less, mean more. Cinematic. Portrayals of flawless comms erase the constant static, discipline, and dependence on redundancy that shape real battlefield communication. Those limits shape how units move and how commanders control forces. And just as films simplify the noise and vulnerability of radios, they also simplify what happens when a bullet strikes protective gear. Body armor and equipment. When discussing protective gear, films tend to exaggerate its capabilities to the point of fantasy. Characters walk through storm after storm of gunfire, shaking off sprays of bullets as though their vests render them untouchable. The reality is more nuanced. Today's body armor and modular equipment dramatically improve survivability, but they stop well short of making any soldier invulnerable. Modern systems combine lightweight ceramic plates with soft armor layers to counter a wide range of threats. These plates can stop rifle rounds, but only within strict limits. A single strike may be absorbed, perhaps a second one too, but repeated hits or shots to the same area compromise the plate's integrity. Even when a round doesn't penetrate, the immense energy transfer can lead to cracked ribs, heavy bruising, or internal trauma. Instead of the flawless protection seen on screen, armor operates more like a life-saving cushion, reducing the odds of a fatal wound without eliminating danger. Equipment designs have also shifted toward modularity, allowing troops to tailor their kits to different missions. Attachments for ammunition, medical gear, and communication systems can be mounted or stripped depending on context. What films leave out is how exhausting that weight becomes over time. Hours of movement with a vest carrying multiple plates, water, radios, and weapon systems grind down endurance. Even the best designed gear still taxes the body, and commanders constantly weigh survival against fatigue when setting loadouts. To address that tension, military labs and defense contractors are actively experimenting with powered and mechanical exoskeleton prototypes. These trial systems aim to offload some of the heavy burden from the soldier, providing lift assistance or redistributing weight across external frames. They remain in experimental phases and are not yet standard issue, but tests show potential for reducing fatigue during long operations. This research direction contrasts sharply with the near-superhuman mobility Hollywood grants to soldiers weighed down with gear who run, leap, and fight as if unencumbered. Coverage is another critical limit. Plates only protect the torso where they sit. Joints, limbs, and the lower body remain exposed. Helmets provide additional defense, but higher caliber threats or explosive fragments still defeat them. Every uncovered area represents vulnerability, and even covered areas can still sustain painful injuries from blunt impact. The body is not immune beneath a vest, it is only shielded within parameters. Testing standards drive this entire ecosystem. Armor is certified against specific rounds and environmental conditions, undergoing strict impact trials and durability tests under temperature extremes. Plates degrade under fire, and real gear has expiration dates. By contrast, on-screen armor never cracks, never fails, and never adds weight, always portrayed as a faultless shield. The difference is critical. Real equipment buys time and survival chances, but it doesn't erase risk. Soldiers remain exposed in ways audiences rarely see, a reminder that combat outcomes depend on more than what gear can absorb. This focus on survivability through equipment highlights the gap between cinematic invincibility and battlefield reality. And while armor and plates determine how much punishment a soldier can endure, other tools determine how accurately they can strike back, especially when engagements demand precision under pressure. Sniper tactics with modern optics. Movies often frame the sniper as an almost mythical figure, firing through storms or smoke and landing impossible kills with a single squeeze of the trigger. In these scenes, the rifle's optics appear to bend reality. Bullets cut through crosswinds or pouring rain, landing perfectly on target without hesitation. That makes for striking visuals, but it oversimplifies what precision shooting really demands. In practice, long-range shots remain some of the most technically complex tasks in combat, requiring more than just one person and a high-powered scope. Modern optics are remarkably advanced compared to earlier generations. Thermal sights let snipers see concealed targets through darkness, fog, or cover. Integrated laser rangefinders calculate distances to the meter. Digital ballistic calculators process variables like air temperature, pressure, and even barrel wear, while feeding corrections directly into the optic. Combined, these tools reduce guesswork and allow trained shooters to extend their effective range. Yet none of these eliminate the realities of ballistics or the unpredictability of the environment. A bullet still begins to drop as soon as it leaves the barrel, and wind, mirage, or humidity can all shift its path slightly off course. This is why real sniper engagements almost always involve a two-person team, not one lone shooter. The spotter confirms range, checks wind calls, tracks trace, and assists in ballistic corrections while the sniper prepares the shot. Together, they fine-tune calculations that movies reduce to a single breath and a trigger pull. Without this support, even state-of-the-art optics cannot guarantee accuracy beyond mid-range distances. Consumer-grade rifles, despite what films sometimes suggest, do not allow anyone to step up and replicate world record shots on their own. Just as misleading is how quickly these sequences unfold. On screen, the crosshair settles, the shot is fired, and the target drops instantly. In real operations, pulling the trigger is often the smallest part of the job. snipers may spend hours or even days in concealed positions simply observing, gathering intelligence, and transmitting data. In fact, studies and doctrines show observation and reporting make up 80 to 90% of a sniper's mission profile, with shots fired being rare and deliberate. Hollywood's overemphasis on dramatic kill scenes masks the fact that many deployments end without a single round discharged. When suppressors appear in films, they're often portrayed as rendering rifles whisper quiet and invisible. Reality is different. Suppressors reduce noise and muzzle flash, but a supersonic round is still loud enough to be heard across distance. The effect is about concealment and survivability, not invisibility. Similarly, scenes where snipers perform feats like flipping cars with a well-placed round belong purely in cinematic exaggeration.